Does it ever amaze you what this show gets away with?
Yes, every time I watch it. I had rewatched some episodes that I hadn't seen in a while from the beginning of the season last night, and I just was like, this is network television. Jesus. But I also love the fact that we do get away with it because it's time for network television to grow up.
Why do you think they're competing with cable? Do you think?
Yeah, they're competing with cable. I think the artistry of the show is extraordinary. I don't think that it's because we're competing with cable that the show is as good as it is. I think that the show is as good as it is because we've got Brian at the helm and David's directing and Michael Reimer's work and Guillermo's work last season as well. It is an impeccable show to work on. There is an elegance to this thing that just kind of blows me away because these are guys working to the best of their abilities, and so they're not going to do anything less. Plus, the influences on them are sort of huge, particularly with Brian. Like, he just loves so many different kinds of movies and different kinds of directors, and all of that plays in Hannibal. And also, I think we're kind of in this golden age of television right now. I really feel that there's this amazing opportunity for us to tell stories that go on for 22 hours, with characters that sort of sweep across, a life into people's homes in a way that a film, unfortunately, isn't doing. And I think that's on everybody's mind. If you're working on TV, it's like, let's move this thing into the future.
So your character was super easy to dislike in the first season, and then as things went along, you got more and more sympathetic. How did you deal with that as an actor, and did Brian talk to you about that, and how did that go?
Chilton I know that I'm doing Chilton right when I feel uncomfortable in my skin. I know that I'm playing the part properly when my underwear feels like it's I asked them to put me in bikini underwear. I think there's something so sort of smart. I hate those double-breasted suits. Everything about him just feels off. When I started, because I had to come into it so quickly, but my way in was physical. And in talking to Brian about it, I said, I don't want him to just be this smarmy asshole. There's got to be something else going on. And we found our way in with the humor. Because Brian's greatest gift is he's a really, really funny writer. And so all of his team put together some pretty great Chiltonisms. And that, I think, is what started to be the key to making him more sympathetic.
So what's your favorite of those?
I particularly love, there's one that he says to Jack this season where he's like, Jack says, you have an agenda here. And he says, yes, I have an agenda. Living.
Yes, that was great.
There's another one where he says, what is it? He goes, Abel Gideon was half-eaten on my property. There are corpses on my property. Abel Gideon was half-eaten in my guest room. You just threw up an ear.
That's my favorite line.
And my other favorite one is, one can grow to love beets. Was another one. And they put Chilton through the ringer. And I think the sympathy for him comes from, he thinks he's smarter than he is. And even the audience is smarter than Chilton. They're 10 steps ahead of him, and they just kept seeing how he's going to get caught. And then his sense of humor is appealing as you see this person struggling. By the time we get to episode 6 of season 2, he's desperate. He's just desperate for anything, and he thinks he's so smart. And coining. I loved getting to coin Hannibal the Cannibal. That was pretty great.
That was great.
Actually, these guys just asked me about something I ad-libbed, and I realized that whole dinner party we played around with ad-libs.
Really?
Yeah, I completely blanked on that. So, yeah.
It's like every time somebody eats in the show, though, you always have to say, what are they eating?
I know.
And what did you ever go to one of the meals and be like, man, I really want to eat this because it looks really good?
Yeah, it all looks great, but it's all made of dried chickpeas. It's because they have when you walk on set in Canada, it's just two huge, massive warehouses essentially that I think used to be for manufacturing coffee or something. And there'll be the morgue and the FBI offices right next to Hannibal's office, which is a 2-story set, which is across the way from Hannibal's kitchen, which works perfectly, which is next to the dining room, which is across the way from a hallway that leads to Chilton's interview rooms. In the center of all of this, in this huge open space, they have a food preparation area where people stand around, work all day, creating 100 versions of the plates that we're about to eat, and prepping them like they're prepping a kitchen, and bringing them to the table, because every take, you take one bite, they gotta replace that. So we never eat any of it. It all tastes fine.
Okay.
It's all vegetables.
Okay,
Luckily,
that's fair.
because we're always like, what are we supposed to be eating
Go ahead, try it.
It's gummy.
I think that was in the first episode I did where they had me. We were supposed to be eating lamb's tongue, and Caroline and I are in the scene, and we were like, so is he meant to have killed what, like 100 children or something? Like, what are these baby lamb tongues? What are we eating? Are these human? Is this human or is it an actual lamb? We don't know half the time.
Do you know what the little tiny birds were made of? Do you remember those little birds
Those
that they
ridiculous-
eat? Yeah, that he flambés or whatever.
No.
And then,
I don't
those
actually
were
know.
pretty serious.
No. I don't want to know. That was one of the ad libs that happened. Was I came on set for the dinner party scene, and they had the sort of chicken claw thing sticking up out of an appetizer, and I was like, Tim Hunter was directing that episode, and I said, we got to use this, man. This is ridiculous. This is dead cloth thing. And then they kept it, and they kept it. Chilton like,
I remember this.
and then they were like, I started to ask, what is this? And I'm like, forget it. I don't want to know what this is.
Mads looks like he is just so relishing, so to speak, the food preparation and the whole thing. Is he just having a ball with that part
I
of it?
think he's having such a hard time with that part of it. That is really hard work. But yes, it's a blast. I know that it's a blast for him. Mads is one of the kindest and funniest and gentlest people that I have ever worked with, which is such a joy to have that on set. You know, playing such a dark role, he's always got a joke. Or not a joke, but just some sort of light, fun thing that he appreciates about the scene that he's in. So relishing is exactly the word for what he does. He works very hard to get that stuff right, and it always goes wrong. So all he does is crack up, and we crack up with him. And half the time he has to say these insane things about these ridiculous, this celeriac baked ash cooked sea urchin in a broth reduction. We're like, what the fuck is he talking about? And then he has to say that while putting it down, like he knows when we're like, and it's not even his first language.
I know. Brilliant, actually.
They'll give us the script sometimes, like 10 minutes before we walk on set, with some changes, and he'll be like, "Don't you understand? This is not easy to memorize."
Spoke English, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, well, no, it wouldn't be easy if you spoke English. None of us have eaten these things before. Are we done?
Thank
Okay.
you very
Oh,
much.
it's nice to talk to
Enjoy
you
the rest
guys.
of the